Joining our webcast today. I'm James Milliron, Director of Marketing for Advanticom, and we're very excited to bring to you a discussion today with Citrix here on application and desktop virtualization. Very hot topic. It's been something that's been discussed for quite some time now, but George here will be presenting an excellent presentation to go into some more detail about some new things that maybe we have not had much exposure to recently. So I hope that today's presentation is very informative for you, that we can make some good decisions on implementing application and desktop virtualization into our organizations. And if you have any questions, there is a chat box. Feel free to ask any questions along the way, and we will answer them as we go. The presentation is being recorded, so if you drop off, don't worry about it. At some point in the next week, we can get the presentation over to you as well. So thank you again for your time, and now I will hand it over to George to begin the presentation. Thanks, George.
All right, thanks, James. So like James said, I'm a Citrix sales engineer. Like James said, if anyone has any questions, there is a chat box in here. You can get and type in your questions, and we can answer them as quick as we can here. So really quick, high-level agenda is some of the things that we'll cover is some of the current business challenges and use cases out there for some of the features that Citrix really plans and works very well in your environment. The next piece we'll kind of go into is what Citrix FlexCast is and how it will help solve some of those business challenges, as well as taking a quick look at some of our Citrix products, the portfolio of products that we have, and kind of, again, another overview of our Citrix architecture, really focusing on two of our products, Zen App and Zen Desktop, that can be used to deliver virtual applications and desktops to the environment. So kind of here's a quick marketing slide of where Citrix and VDI kind of fits into in the market and so many other competitors and vendors that are out there. And Citrix has been doing VDI and publish apps, publish desktops for over 25 years. So we're definitely one of the leaders in virtual apps and desktops in the market. We'll kind of jump right into the next section here and some of the use cases and challenges that some of topics that we have in here are two products really, is the Zen App and Zen Desktop. So when we look at Zen App, I want you to kind of think of Zen App really runs on Windows Server operating systems. That'll be Server 2008, Server 2012, and our Zen Desktop product includes everything in Zen App, but it also gives you the ability to publish applications and desktops from the Windows desktop environments, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10 environments. And around the little wheel here on the left, we have a lot of documentation and design guides wrapped around them as well. And towards the end of the presentation, there'll be some resource links that are out there that you can download these documents for the specific use cases we'll talk about today. So one of the biggest ones that's been out there, Citrix has been in the market for over 25 years. So some of the real biggest ones out here that we're looking at is being able to transform call centers. I've worked at a lot of companies, and a lot of my accounts are, big call center deployments, whether they're banks or, healthcare companies, and really trying to save and desktop products to replace full-fledged desktops at the endpoints, giving them thin clients or Chromebooks or lower-end cost devices at the back end, and using our Zen App technology with uses server back-end infrastructure for the environment. Another big key use case is we hear quite often is BYOD. A lot of customers are looking for BYOD program And Citrix really itself falls into that category. Citrix itself is a big BYO company. Anyone coming and starting new, they have the ability of purchasing whatever type of endpoint that they want. They can come in, use the environment, just using Citrix Receiver. They can download it on their own, and they can get access day one to all the back-end resources that we have in the environment. Moving on to another big use case is remote and branch offices. Typical customers today, they have a main corporate data center that houses, a large percentage of their users today, and then they have the small little branch offices located, all over the globe, and they still need to be able to deliver, a consistent user environment across the, their back-end infrastructure with published desktops and published applications. Very similar to remote and branch workers is also contractors and partners accessing their environment. So some of the big key features that we have within Citrix and our policies that we have, very granular policies in our environment. If a user's inside a corporate network, they can have a specific desktop and have partners or contractors coming in, you might want to block all that access. I'm sure you're not going to want to have, for security reasons, customers being able to copy, your personal documentations out of your VDI environment into their local endpoint machines. So you definitely get the flexibility and security really around Zen App and Zen desktop products. Again, another big one is PC refreshes. Again, a lot of customers, very similar to the call center folks, is trying to replace some of the more expensive desktops that are out there in the environment, replacing them with Chromebooks or replace them with multiple different type of thin clients. A very cheap way of data centers. So some new features over the last few years what Citrix is bringing out. Definitely branching out into some of the more manufacturing companies and education companies and schools and manufacturings are able to utilize some of those applications that are specifically built for on the Linux operating system. Another real big one, again, like I mentioned a couple times, is Chromebooks. Really, a lot of Chromebooks we're finding in the education space, looking to be able to give cheaper Chromebook perspective. Again, keeping all the data and applications in the back-end infrastructure. So Chromebooks have been really popular over the last 2 or 3 years and really saving costs on the endpoint devices for customers. So one big thing that Citrix definitely does have is a really good partnership with Microsoft. Over the last 25 years, we have a very good relationship with Microsoft. Every time we sell a piece of our product, Microsoft is also making money on it, using the endpoints on server or desktop operating systems. So we have a great relationship with being able to integrate their products into ours. So one of the real big ones over the last few years is really Lync and or Skype for Business, being able to deliver a great audio video telephone product, audio product through a Zen App or Zen desktop environment. Again, on the Microsoft theme here is also being able to integrate Office 365, Lync Online, and a lot of customers are moving out to some of the cloud products that are out there, and these cloud products definitely integrate very tightly with Zen App and Zen desktop and virtual desktops on the back end. So also in the environment, not just being able Mac, being able to bring in their own devices that they want to use, but still have the flexibility of launching those Windows applications on the back end. Right now, we support just about all the Mac devices that are out there. The only requirement is installing a Citrix receiver on that endpoint, and then you have full access to your back-end data on your Windows servers and Windows desktops. So with that, the next section we'll kind of move into is our FlexCast architecture. The FlexCast architecture is going to be really highlighting the ability to launch different technologies in the environment, whether it's a VDI or it's a full-fledged Windows server on the back end. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about what FlexCast is and how it really works in your environment. So several years ago, VDI really came out. There's definitely a big thing coming out, and one of the first things customers start to see is you still have the one-to-one relationship, meaning you have one user to one desktop or one operating system on the back end. So you're kind of shifting the cost from your desktop endpoints to your back end storage. So the storage cost to deliver a full VDI to every one of your users was definitely a lot for desktops, the same look and feel on a desktop operating system, but providing a server operating system on the back end. So you have many users connecting to one virtual or one physical server on the back end. They still get the same look and feel of a Windows 7 or a Windows 10 environment, but you get the savings on the back end of your storage environment where you don't have to provision multiple VDIs on the back end to consume the same usage. Some of the other features, other flexibility is a piece called Remote PC. So again, we have the customers that still have physical desktops in the environment, but when they go home and they log in, they want to be able to access that physical desktop. So you have the ability of coming in through our Citrix environment and launching that Remote PC if need be. So you basically get a RDP scenario, but the only requirement you need is a small agent on one of those devices, and you can log in and launch those devices. The end users don't need to remember the computer name or IP address or anything. It's all set up and configured within Citrix. So a couple of these features we'll talk about a little bit more and kind of go into the different Zen App and Zen Desktop infrastructure pieces. Or you can hit hit up something in the chat window, and we can definitely answer any questions you may have. All right, I'll keep moving on here. So really want to break out the couple pillars in our FlexCast model, and the one is I kind of really talked about a little bit. Now this is the hosted applications. Most users in the environment, and we kind of have a percentage around it, between 70 and 80% of the users. They really just need to launch an application, whether it's a CRM application or a custom internal application or website that wants to be centrally managed in the environment. Launch applications from within the environment. So basically, you have all these applications installed on a physical Windows server in your data center, and you have many users launch one application. So if you look at a specific server or a specific core, I mean, we're talking like 15 to 25 users per CPU core on the back end. So that's kind of where you get to the one-to-many on the back end for your Citrix environment. And again, this is what we kind of refer to as our hosted applications infrastructure with Zen App. Oops. So our next session here is what we call hosted shared desktop. And again, this is actually using the same sort of infrastructure on the back end. It's a Windows Server operating system running on our Zen App product. And it's going to give you the same feature. Instead of launching one specific application, it's going to launch you to a full-fledged desktop where you have full access to all the applications installed in that environment. And the graphic here kind of shows some thin clients in the background launching, and that's kind of our typical use case for call centers or your task-oriented users, where you can give them a cheaper, inexpensive device and still have access to all the applications on the back end. And again, you're going to get multiple users connecting to one physical server or one virtual server on the back end. You're going to get a higher user density. They're always online access, so there's a built-in load balancing within these Citrix servers as well on the back end. So again, this is using our the server operating system, kind of really saving on the storage and back end costs for virtual apps and desktops. So our next section here is called Host VDI. Now, Host VDI is going to be using our Zen desktop infrastructure components, being able to deliver Windows-based desktop operating systems to your users. So it's basically an image management on this environment, and basically what a dedicated desktop is, a user would log in, they would launch a desktop in the background, whether it's Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, and every time they would log in, they get that same desktop on the back end. So you're getting a one-to-one relationship here. And typically we kind of see this as a smaller percentage, maybe 10 to 15% of your users are looking at this type of environment. Dedicated desktops, we typically see developers that are offshore developers that are coming in, or see some of your power users or high-level engineers that need that horsepower, they need that dedicated machine on the back end with the same sort of applications that they need day in and day out. So that's kind of a lot smaller percentage. Again, using the FlexCast model is really going to save you some of the cost on the back end to kind of limit the amount of one-to-one relationships on the back end environment. We also see this being highly used with now the some of the NVIDIA grid cards to provide some of those graphic intensive applications to the users and on a dedicated basis. So one of the other pieces here for what we call a hosted VDI, a pooled hosted VDI. So what the pooled hosted VDI means is on the back end you have one specific image that gets deployed to all the different VDIs that are out there. So when a user logs in, they launch their VDI, they're going to get the next desktop that's available in that pool. They log in, they do their work for the day. When they log off, that machine gets rebooted, and it goes back to the master golden image. So anything that was saved or left on there is gone. All the user data and the storage is all saved off into a remote storage location in their user profile. So when they log back in the next day, all the customizations are still there. Customizations like your Outlook signature, your wallpaper, things like that are all saved into your local profile and stored into a remote storage location. So some technologies that we'll talk a little bit about of how we create and manage and maintain these images, the golden images, provisioning services or machine creation services, and we'll talk a little bit about that on a future slide here. So another one we kind of briefly talked about was the remote PC functionality. So you can kind of see from the graph here is, you get the user still in the office, they have a full-fledged desktop. When they go home, they want to be able to launch that desktop, continue working on where they left off earlier in the day. So you have the ability of not just providing those virtual desktops, but you can also do it to physical ones as well. So I'll talk a little bit about how you maintain and manage these master images on the back end. We have two products that are out there for doing it. One is called provisioning services, and it's a streaming technology to where when a server boots up, it streams down the bits that are required to launch applications and the operating systems. So when a user logs in, the first person that launches Excel, it's going to stream those bits down to the user so they can use those specific applications. All the images are managed and maintained centrally. So when there's Microsoft and Windows patches or application updates, the administrators on the back end can update one specific image, and then they can deploy it out to many devices on the back end. So there's a lot of good things in it. There's a development test and a production mode. So after you make your updates to it, you want to deploy it to a small testing group of users, make sure everything's validated and tested, and then you can push it out to all your other users in the environment. And probably the biggest thing that's different with our provisioning service is basically instant rollback. So if you do roll those images out to production and you run into any type of issues and you need to roll back, all it is a matter of a couple mouse clicks in the provisioning service console, and then you reboot those servers. Obviously, you reboot one at a time, and it would bring those back right back to the prior version that it was before you made any updates to it. So that's kind of provisioning services. The provisioning down to your virtual devices. Your virtual devices is not going to get all that 80 gig. It's only going to take a piece of what it needs. So typically, it's about a 50% reduction on your storage costs for your Zen App or Zen desktop environment. So you don't have to deploy that exact image across all your systems. If you have a small set of systems, it's not really that big, but we have some deployments that has several hundred servers. So that's a pretty substantial savings when you're deploying it using a technology like provisioning services. The other technology I mentioned is called machine creation services. I don't think I have a slide for that one, but what machine creation service is, it's basically the same sort of mechanism where you update one master image, but what it does is a link clone technology. So if that 80 gig image is your master image, that 80 gig will get copied to every system that you want to reproduce it to. So there you can kind of see some of the cost, the cost kind of going up a little bit if you're looking at several hundred devices and you got to copy that image out to all those individual devices. So that's kind of some of the biggest differences between the two. Both of the technologies work very well. You can cache the images in RAM, and you're really going to speed up IOPS performance. Some of the numbers that we have out there, prior to using caching in memory, we might be using 10 to 12 IOPS per VDI, meaning a Windows 7 VDI. And with using this cache to RAM, it dropped that 10 to 12 to just under 1 IOP per VDI in the environment. So there's a lot of back-end storage savings using either provisioning services or machine creation services. Okay, so moving on, one of the biggest pieces in here is our HDX, which is our high def user experience. And with HDX, it brings in all your different components on the back end. Your printing environments, your USB connected devices, signature pads or tablets or scanners or anything like that. HDX is the technology that really gives you the ability to have multiple different tablet, could be smartphone. You can go out to any of the apps, download Citrix Receiver. Citrix Receiver is basically our endpoint agent for all the functionality and communication to your Citrix environment on the back end. And as of the last year or so. Out there for Mac, for Linux, for obviously Windows 10 was recently released. We also have an HTML5 browser as well that can be used, and Chrome receiver for any type of Chromebooks that are out there. Across all those individual devices. So when you go to launch an application, the look and feel of our web storefront environment where you launch the physical applications from is going to be the same across all your individual devices. Some of the real big things that we've made some changes over the last 2 or 3 years is really having a consistent look and feel. You look at some of the competitors that are out there with us is if you log in from a Mac, you're going to get a different user experience look and feel that you would from a Windows device. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the Citrix products and portfolio that we have. it's really an end-to-end type, really a complete end-to-end portfolio. We really have a true end-to-end solution now. Starting from the left side of this diagram, we have mobile device management and mobile application management using our Zen mobile products. Zen mobile products are really for tablets and smartphones that are out there, giving you access to all of our Zen mobile applications, which we call our Works apps. So you can have your typical Works mail, your Works web. So a lot of integration from the tablet and smartphone environment as well. The kind of middle section here is our share file piece, so secure file sync and sharing, very similar to a Dropbox scenario, but we have the ability of really locking down security and encryption on our share file products. A lot of different deployment scenarios where it can be deployed internally, it can be deployed in a cloud, or it could be a hybrid approach, and really providing some really tight security around your file sharing with either internal employees or sharing out to your customers. Kind of moving on, we also have a very wide selection of networking products, starting with our NetScaler. Our NetScaler product is really our front-ending product into your DMZ environment, or the first device a user would hit. That you can stick in your environment, not just the front end, your Zen App and Zen Desktop environment, but it can also handle a lot of security and a lot of other features that most scenarios would need multiple different type of endpoints and devices used in an environment. And kind of like we talked about a little bit of Zen App and Zen Desktop, some of the components that are involved with there for virtual Windows apps and desktops. And then the Citrix receiver and the Works app is really our endpoint device for integrating the devices and the seamless experience across multiple different devices today. So I kind of mentioned being able to deliver secure applications into your environment. And again, like I mentioned, the Zen App piece of it is server operating system. So Server 2008 forward. The latest version of Zen App that was out there is released a couple weeks ago, which was Zen App 7.8, which brings in a lot of function and features into your environment. And we'll kind of talk about some of those features in a minute. But moving on from that is desktop operating systems, as well as your Zen App environment, kind of bringing that FlexCast model all in one, and being able to mass produce and push out desktops into your environment. So over the last few years, Zen App and Zen Desktop used to be two separate products. So you had multiple management consoles to go into. Now today, they're both the products are integrated tightly with each other. You have one database on the background, single management consoles to manage your environment. So at one console, you can hit everything in a FlexCast model that you need to hit. So I'll talk a little bit about the additions. So on Zen App, we actually just added a new edition, which is called our web browser edition, and really, Citrix has done a lot of research in the environments, and really looked and you look at what's the main sort of web-based application, whether it's Google Chrome or Firefox or one of the versions of Internet Explorer. We see most of our published applications are coming from there. So recently we created a web browser edition that's going to be released in the near future, just to hit that use case for anyone that's looking to publish only web browser type of applications. It can be handled within the web browser edition. The Advanced Edition is a very, at the entry-level type edition. It's going to give you the same hosted shared applications and desktops like we talked about. A lot of the HDX technologies that are in there. Typically small deployments are usually looking at advanced. The two biggest ones, the ones we see the most, are the Enterprise Edition and Platinum Editions. The difference really with them is a lot of historical information you can get out of Platinum that you would only get a few days out of the Enterprise Edition. Really looking at the big enterprise customers are really looking for the Platinum features that we have with it. There's multiple different management products and monitoring products that come in the Platinum Edition. And really the Platinum and Enterprise Editions are very similar on the Zen Desktop side. So the only real difference with Zen Desktop is we have a VDI only edition. So if you purchase the Zen Desktop VDI only, the only thing you'll be able to get is publishing Windows 7 and Windows 10 operating systems. Just really the Windows Desktop operating systems with the VDI only edition. When you get Enterprise or Platinum Edition, that's when it brings in Zen App and Zen Desktop together. So I'll go a little bit more detail of the Platinum Editions and some of the functions and features that you get. A lot of them is wrapped around monitoring. So Citrix Director is our monitoring product that we have. Some of our older customers that are not using, that are using 6.5 and 4.5 older version of the Zen app, the monitoring features are a little bit challenging. So what Citrix did with the 7.5 and 7.6 versions is we're really bringing in some better products to help monitor and troubleshoot the Citrix environment. So Citrix Director handles a lot of the user sessions and be able to see exactly what's going on in your environment. Be able to do trending and reporting up to a year's worth of data in the Platinum Edition. We also have System Center Operations Manager integration as well. Citrix recently purchased some ComTrade management packs, so any current customer that's using a SCOM or System Center's Operation Manager can freely download the ComTrade packs and install them into their environment if they're running any of the Platinum editions of Zen App or Zen Desktop. Another great feature, probably the one I like the best, is our App DNA for managing and monitoring, or actually for lifecycle management of your applications. You can bring in applications into your environment and you can test them to see where they're going to function and run properly. So it's kind of hard to see at the top of the window, but it's looking at different operating systems at the top, and it's going to determine and detect what operating system that those specific applications will run in. Not just with applications, you can also do it with websites. A lot of customers that have like Java or .NET related websites, sometimes they function good in like IE 10, but they won't work in IE 11. You can run those websites through our AppDNA product, and they can pinpoint some of the functionality and features that will work or will not work during an upgrade process. We have a lot of customers that are looking to migrate to Windows 10 environment, and this is a great way of running these applications to make sure your current applications are compatible with Windows 10 or possibly Server 2016 coming out in the near future. Another feature we have within Platinum is our storefront product. Our storefront product offers a self-service password reset. For existing customers that are running Zen App 6.5 today, we have a product called Password Manager that's built into that. So customers that are looking to advance and go to the latest and greatest versions of so some more of the information we kind of talked about, a lot of the projects and use cases that are out there, all these resources can be downloaded from our Citrix websites. We have a very good resource links that are on there to download specific guides and documentation around all these individual use cases, and a little bit more detail around the FlexCast model and projects around it. So again, here's very similar guides. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about our deployment options. So with Zen App and Zen Desktop, the infrastructure, since they brought them both together, it's everything in your corporate data center. We also have the ability to deploy stuff in the cloud as well. You can use Citrix Workspace Cloud, and currently today it's offered to deploy applications and desktops. In the future, we're looking at bringing in Zen Mobile and ShareFile as well into our cloud products. We also have Citrix service providers, to where a Citrix service provider can host an entire Citrix infrastructure and basically have a full NAS deployment, which is kind of completely off-site at a hosted provider. So we'll talk a little bit more of how these are deployed. The diagram here is a high-level overview of what our typical installation is. We break it down on the left-hand side is basically a user layer. A user or it could be an internal user as well. They would come into the environment. The first type of infrastructure they would hit would be some sort of a network appliance in your DMZ. Here we have our NetScaler
muted
external traffic coming in, and then we'll route that into our Citrix storefront environment and accessing our back-end infrastructure, which we can see here, our control layer, which is basically the director and studio, the management components of the back-end. The other layer that's up here called our resource layer. The resource layer is basically all the use cases that I just talked about. So it could be Windows desktops, it could be Windows all these components will be installed locally into your data center. We also have some of the ability to do on a cloud hosted. So it's a little bit difficult to see, but on the right-hand side, you kind of see that this piece is grayed out. So the resources. Now these resources are basically your hypervisor environment. So Citrix runs on top of our Zen server product, Hyper-V, VMware. It runs on any type of hypervisor on the back end. So if you go to a cloud-hosted Zen desktop environment, basically you would still have to manage all these individual components. The cloud piece would be your resource layer, so your virtual environment on the back end for a cloud-hosted Zen desktop environment. So just another way of deploying Zen App and Zen Desktop. Our next piece here is what we call our Citrix Workspace Cloud. The Citrix Workspace Cloud is managing the entire control plane, like I mentioned. And it's a little bit easier to see it up here. I'll kind of circle around it. This whole control plane, this whole bottom section, will be managed and maintained by Citrix. So that means and we will take control of all those components, and then the other pieces would still be managed in your corporate data center, or it also could be managed in a cloud infrastructure like Azure or AWS. But those top components would still be basically your VDAs and your VDI environment would still be managed and maintained at your corporate data center, corporate environment. And then our last one that we talked about was our Citrix Service Provider. This is kind of a very typical DAS solution, desktop as a service. So the whole back-end environment would be hosted in a cloud infrastructure, whether that's Azure or AWS or whatever cloud provider that you have. Citrix has some, we call them CSP, Citrix Service Providers out there that can provide this type of environment for you and deploy all the same exact FlexCast architecture like we talked about. So kind of moving on, I want to show some of the features and really how much we expand over the last few years. One of the big things is really deploying the features and functionality that our customers are requiring and asking for. So you can see as of last year, we released a ton of different features over the years, over the year. Every quarter we come out a lot of new updates and enhancements to our existing products, incorporating companies' recommendations and best practices. And already in 2016 we have a pretty good head start already. In the first quarter, we've delivered a lot of new features into our products. So with that said, we're basically coming to the end here. Again, like I mentioned, some of the additional resources that we have from the Citrix.com web and probably the last thing I wanted to bring up and mention is Citrix Energy is our customer, our customer user forum, our customer education conference that we have every year. This year it is in Las Vegas, and it's coming up at towards the end of May. We usually have tons of hands-on labs in Synergy, being able to access to our products. If you haven't been out there, Citrix Energy is a really great place to go to kind of get the latest and greatest of all of our applications and our so I'll get in unmute you here, and well, and then,
unmuted.
If anyone has any questions or comments or anything. James, you still online?
Hey, George. Yes, I am.
Okay.
Great presentation. I had a few questions along the way, and I think you answered all of them as we were going. It's funny. I'm sitting here typing up my own questions about, does that, are you guys prepared for Windows 10 and everything? And the moment I'm typing up that question, there you go and answer it. Very, very informative, very, in-depth. And what I will say is probably a reason why I personally don't have many questions is because even here at Advanticom, being a partner of Citrix, we're actually using your products. And Citrix Receiver is something that I use almost every day as I'm traveling and working remotely. And it works like a charm, and we're very happy to be using that. And we hope that other people will see the benefit in these products and be able to use it for their productivity as well. And if anybody on the webcast today has any further questions about how they can implement some of these VDI and application environments into their organizations, you can definitely feel free to reach out to Advanticom or George over at Citrix. And you can find our contact information on our website, advanticom.com. I don't see any other questions coming in. George, that's about it for me. Anything else? Any closing thoughts from you before we exit today?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know that this was definitely a high-level overview. If we need to deep dive anything else, we have a wide range of local resources in whatever area you may be in. So if you need any type of follow-ups or anything, definitely feel free to reach out. There should be a poll at the end, so if there's anything you need, please let us know. And I definitely appreciate everyone's time today, and thanks for joining.
Great. Thanks, George. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.